So everybody, thanks a lot for joining. Today we are going to talk or scratch a little bit of the surface of our technology and how the Televic technology can basically help you cure and care while maintaining social distance. So, well, first of all, so the topics we are going to cover is, of course, a little bit upon who Televic is and a little bit of introduction of the company. Then we are scratch the surface a bit about indoor localization and why indoor localization could help you in maintaining this distance while still giving good care to patients and safety for the care professionals. Then a little bit more about contextual alarming and intercom. And last but not least, operational workflows, which seems to be a tendency also in nursing homes and hospital facilities. So I don't know how many people have heard about Televic, but basically we are a group of companies. So we were founded in 1946. Last week was our 74th anniversary, so a lot of cupcakes. We are present worldwide, so we have 10 offices globally, roughly 1,000 people, and we do a little bit more than 100 million euros in annual turnover. Why do I think this is important information? I think the fact that potentially we could work together as an integrator. I think it's important that you know that we as a company, we are solid, we are there to last, and we are not gonna disappear anytime soon. So I think that's one of the prime reasons why I'm telling you this. The markets we are in, basically, so I already mentioned, we are busy in 4 niche markets. They all have to do with communication and critical communication in general. The first one is conference, which is all about moderated meetings. So we have references like NATO, European Parliament. I even don't want to mention it, but even Donald Trump is working with our system. I don't know if that's a reference. Then we have Televic Education. That's all about e-learning and testing. Then, of course, a little bit more about Televic Healthcare. That's coming up after this slide. And then Televic Rail, which is communication from the ground to the train, from the train to the ground, proactive maintenance on trains, and so forth. In general, over all these business units, we have a very unique approach. And basically, the approach is that we create. So if something doesn't exist yet, technology-wise, we work together with engineering spin-offs from a university like EMEC, where we look for technologies, where we overcome technology barriers. So the R&D department is within Televic. We build the systems ourselves, so also the production facilities we have in our own hands, so we can control the quality end to end, and we deliver towards the end customer through a partner model. So we do not sell directly. And this is over all 4 business units. Now, specifically, a little bit about Televic Healthcare. So also here, we were one of the first business units. So since 1953, so 67 years on the market. I think the picture is showing one of the first systems that we built. Luckily, they changed over time a little bit and became more modern. And what do we do basically in the business units is we want to give the healthcare worker the power to make the best possible decision. Based on context, or in an environment that is really time critical. I mean, if a patient is not feeling well, it can be dramatic. And of course, we want, as a result, is that we want to have high quality care for both healthcare professional and the patient. Increased efficiency, which is doing basically more with less staff, which is the tendency all over Europe. And of course, the safety aspect for the healthcare worker and the patient is also crucial here. Global reach, many references globally. So over the years, 67 years, we built really a nice set of customers all over the world. Specifically as a topic, basically maintaining, or what did COVID change in the way we act or interact with our patients. Well, I just took two, let's say, the first articles I could find on the internet is that we see that sometimes COVID is, let's say, changing us or making us decide really amateuristic ways of getting in contact with patients. One example that I could find is where nurses set up baby phones, basically, or baby monitors to speak with patients. So a very amateuristic way. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit how we could address this. And then another one is, of course, how can we have less contact moments with patients to help for the staff to stay safe while still giving the proper care, and that's basically what this presentation is all about. The platform which we want to highlight or talk to is the Accura Care platform. Basically, it's a platform, and as you can see, it's based on different building blocks, and Nurse Call is just a tiny little piece of this complete platform philosophy. The building blocks that we use in this platform is, the first one is indoor person localization. Second one is wireless Nurse Call, so that's traditional Nurse Call but wireless. Third one is connectors and APIs. So basically, our system is not a standalone technology island, so we can integrate with other vendors, for example, with Wildix to send alarm flows. Alarm distribution is another one. Of course, management software, that's all about the tracing and the logging of what happened. Decision making and rules. So basically, that's about where do we send the alarms to and on what conditions. Signaling, that's about the visualization of alarms. And then, of course, we have the wired Nurse Call, which is also, let's say, pretty basic, but it's mandatory in almost every country to have a wired Nurse Call system. But the power basically is that this Nurse Call is part of a very large ecosystem, which is the Accura Care platform. Of course, I only have 20 minutes, so I scratched or I touched some items. The first item I'm going to touch basically is the indoor localization system. I mean, there are a lot of indoor localization systems on the market. Most of them are mainly used for asset tracking. We built our system from the ground up, and for us, it was crucial that the system basically has the right accuracy, that we can really distinguish that people are in that particular room. When we look at the competition of localization systems, is what we see is that a lot of people work with either Bluetooth technology or RF technology or magnetic induction. But what we know from these technologies is that they are not room accurate. You can give a room estimate or an estimation of location. Of course, for a nurse, if a patient seems to be in room 1 or room 2 because they are adjacent to each other, it makes a really big difference. So, of course, in the critical care or the care communication, you need to absolutely be sure that this person is in that particular room. So what we do differently here is that we use ultrasound technology in combination with RF and magnetic induction. When we combine ultrasound, ultrasound does not leave the room. So therefore, we know that if we combine these technologies, that this person is in that specific room. Now, that's a little bit of theory why we are using this technology. Another important hardware basically is what is on the patient or on the healthcare worker. So that's basically the wearable tag. So therefore, we work with a software-based tag that we can program, and we can have for the patient different programs. Basically, one is that you can call within a building, and we send the location where the call was initiated. Second one is wandering detection and prevention, for example, with people with dementia. And of course, the last one, and that's a scenario that we can build, is infectious diseases, for example. And I'm not only referring to COVID, because COVID, I mean, it's new. I'm personally really fed up with with COVID, but I just want to highlight that there are many more infectious diseases in hospital environments like MERS, norovirus, etc. We could set up a profile to a person when he or she is infected, and, for example, create actions based on this profile. A nurse, for example, she can have a different type of. It's the same hardware wearable, but we can load a different software profile. And she, of course, needs to cancel an alarm when an alarm was raised, a distress call when she has an aggressive patient, for example, or when she cannot handle things by herself, then she can call for help. Now, that's a little bit of theory. Now, more practical, what scenarios could we do with this person localization? And, for example, infectious diseases. Well, what we will see in this picture is that, for example, the red zone is a zone where people that are infected are residing, and the green zone is, that's what we call the safe zone. What we, for example, could do is, if we load the profile that the patient is infected, for example, with norovirus, and he or she is not allowed to leave the red zone, then, of course, as soon as this person is, let's say, close to this gate, we could close the door, or we could raise an alarm when a person is in an area where he or she is not allowed to be. And of course, we also have the exact location of all the patients in a room. And yeah, we can basically trigger alarms. So that's maintaining social distance, for example, in this specific case. Another example is person contact tracing. Well, if you know the location of a patient, then you can set up different scenarios. So you can have a dashboard that is reflecting or showing the duration of a patient, how long was he or she in a room, the capacity of people. For example, if we have 50 elderly people in the cafeteria, then we need to raise an alarm because the maximum capacity is, for example, 50 people. Another one is if we see that we can see the areas which are most frequently visited. Okay, I mean, that means that the virus is likely to be more active in these areas. And then we can, for example, clean these or disinfect these areas more frequently than other areas. So, and basically, it's with this localization data, you can do so much things that basically it's up to your own imagination to figure out possibilities. So that was my first topic. My second topic is basically touching these two areas. That's contextual alarms together with mobility. So what we want to achieve with the platform is that if you raise an alarm and it's just a basic alarm, a nurse doesn't know what's going on. So it means that every time I raise an alarm, physically, the nurse is either obliged to go physically in the room and have contact with the patient. But what if we could send context together with this alarm? And this is basically what it's all about. So this is, for example, a scenario where we have triggers. A trigger can be anything. It can be a smart bed, which is connected to our platform. It can be a wearable, which is measuring vital signs, body temperature, heart rates, oxygen saturation. We have the platform or the brains, the call distributor, which is collecting all these data and making decisions in order to to which person do I send the alarm to. And imagine that you could do the following. So proactively, for example, with my body sensor, my temperature is too high, my respiration rate is too high, and my oxygen level is really low. Seems to me a very critical situation. This device is sending an alarm to the device cloud. Our Acura system is connected to this device cloud and proactively raises an alarm to the closest nurse, for example. This nurse can then trigger actions, and she can then on a dashboard immediately see all the vital signs of this person. Or she can trigger an action and call with a camera to the room. These are all examples of, let's say, giving good care while still maintaining social distance, because by sending context, we can avoid basically the nurse, or potentially avoid that the nurse is going to the patient physically and asking him, okay, what is wrong with you? And how can I help you? Another possibility, of course, is that if you trigger an alarm with either a smartphone or, for example, a Wildix phone, you can trigger an action and call to the room, and then we are talking about intercom possibilities. So one of the first slides was, okay, that hospitals are setting up baby phones or baby monitors in order to get in contact with patients. Of course, we can do it in a much more clever way by using professional devices such as Wildix devices, or like in this example, a Zebra a smartphone, to interconnect with rooms. Here is an example of, for example, wandering N, but wandering N might as well be, for example, a person which is infected with a certain disease, that he or she is in front of a certain door, that you could trigger the alarm and you see, for example, directly what is going on. And basically, it's all about having actionable data at the point of care and reducing the amount of contact moments that a caregiver has with the patient. Because we can do that, we can keep the personnel safe. We can still give good care to the people because we know what's going on. And of course, that will also reduce the amount of disposables like masks and protection gear. We can really optimize the usage of those, because also in the first pandemic, or the first wave, that was an issue, that we didn't have enough protection material. By technology, we could help the usage of protection equipment being used in a more efficient way. And a last one is, for example, operational workflows, which is a workflow panel that we can put in, for example, an elderly care facility with soft-based buttons that you can program. For example, infection in the room, or the room needs cleaning. So a nurse is in the room. She sees, for example, that the room needs cleaning. She can log in, so she's identified. And by pressing, for example, the clean room button, she automatically is going to send an alarm to the cleaning team to say, okay, this room must be cleaned. Also here, again, it's all about avoiding to have contact with patients as much as possible, while still giving the best care possible. So this is a more detailed picture. So we could start cleaning requests. We can set up alarms or an infection risk. Another example could be, on the panel, we know that this patient is a patient who has an infection. You could click on infection risk. Because we know the location, we could easily say, okay, as soon as a person is physically entering the room of this patient, automatically an alarm on the smartphone or a buzzer on the smartphone is activated to tell, watch out, don't forget you are entering a room with a patient that has an infectious disease. So basically, it's all about increasing efficiency while avoiding contact without compromising care. So there is much more to tell, of course, about how our Acura platform, together with our ecosystems of partners like Wildix, is working. But if you heard anything or you have questions, we have a global address, which is global.healthcare@televic.com. And of course, happy to help out or to elaborate if you want to know more about what we can do with our technology. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a very good continuation of the other sessions.